Hi friends, it's Grace and welcome back to another video. This is partially my start of the end of the year 2022 content, I guess. It is some of my favorite time of year to make videos because I find it really fun to look back on 2022, whether that's favorite books or the stats or whatever, and then do some planning for the new year, even if it ends up totally going off the rails actually in the new year. However, it doesn't stop me from wanting to do it. So to that end, I decided that I would make a list of the series that are a priority for me to start in 2023. And last year, I remember I made this video with an absolutely massive list of all of the first books in series that I own. And I didn't exactly say that I was gonna try and start all of those series this year, but I also kind of did say that, and I don't know why, because there was more than 25 series on that list, and suffice to say, I did not start 25 series this year. I think I maybe started 6 or 7 of those, and even that, I've had my hands full, but I'm happy with the progress that I've made this year on series. And so this time I've really made an effort to keep it down, and I have kept it to 5 series that I'm actually going to truly start for the first time, plus an honorable mention. And so basically, I'll just start right off with that. The honorable mention is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, because I and Ben and our Discord are going to be taking part in this read-along that's happening, this massive A Song of Ice and Fire read-along starting in the new year. But I don't really consider this a series that I'm starting because I've read it. So this is a reread for me, even though technically I will be restarting the series at the start of 2023. It's not really in the spirit of the video in terms of this is not a new series that I'm gonna get into. It's gonna be a reread, but I am super excited for it. So 4 out of the other 5 are series that I own at least a few books from, or at least the start of, and one of them is one that I don't own any of the books from, but I've just in recent months kind of fixated on it and decided that I really want to start this series, and maybe possibly because it is finished, and so if I love it, I can just go straight through it. And so that is A Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons. So the first book in that series is The Ruin of Kings, and that book, I haven't read the synopses of the later ones, but the first book is essentially about a main character who is claimed as the long-lost son of this prince, and from what I can understand is drawn into court politics and everything, but I know this book has a dual timeline, so I think that his story is being told in conjunction with another story, and from what I've heard about this, it sounds really interesting to me, but I know that this is also a controversial book, and maybe that's why I'm so interested in it, because I know that there's a fair amount of people that have not liked it, and I think that it's been referred to as confusing and mind-bending, and I'm not by any means saying that I'm so smart or anything that I'm gonna understand it, but I've personally found that in my experience, when there's a book like that where it's referred to by people as kind of confusing, I've not really found that that type of thing has detracted from my enjoyment of books in the past, which is why I think I might be part of the good audience for this series. So I'm not saying oh, I'm gonna understand it. I'm saying I might not mind if I don't understand it. And I think that part of that can be compared to a book like Mask of Mirrors, where I loved that book. Did I fully understand it? Absolutely not. So kind of in that vein, I find A Chorus of Dragons, it's a 5-book series. I find it to be really intriguing. So it's by no means a short series, but I'm just hoping that if I read this first book, I'm gonna really love it, and for some reason I'm just convinced that I will. So that is on my list. Then next up, the second series that I want to talk about is Malazan, Book of the Fallen. And I'm not even going to pretend that I know what Malazan is about, because if I'm being honest, and obviously a ton of people talk about this on BookTube, I kind of ignore them. Like, I kind of don't want to know. I've heard very little of people talking about Malazan aside from like vague themes and like what the books are kind of like in terms of vibes. And obviously this is a massive series. I own the first 4 right now, and I'm not gonna buy any more just because, like, and I've gotten them all pretty much secondhand too, but I'm gonna see how I feel about it first. However, there's no way that I'm not reading this series. The size of the books and the length of the series doesn't really intimidate me in itself. Like, if I start reading it and I find it as confusing and disorienting and difficult as some people seem to, like, maybe then the length will intimidate me, but we're just gonna see how it goes. I know this is a series that I'm gonna read at some point, and I would really like to start it in 2023, so it does have high priority. Next up on my list is The Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri, and I believe that that's supposed to be a trilogy. It starts with the Jasmine Throne, and the second book, The Oleander Sword, I think. Pretty sure I'm right about that title, but I might be wrong, is also now out. So that's a good feeling. I don't know when the third book is gonna come out, but I'm glad that there's 2 if I really love the Jasmine Throne. But I'm interested in this one. The basic premise of this, at least the first book, is you have a princess, like, and captured by, I don't know why I chose that word, like imprisoned by her brother, and I'm not entirely sure why, but she is captive and she has this maidservant who, like, I guess attends to her, but I believe that the maidservant has magic, and so something is going to happen between the 2 of them that will reveal some things where they then have to work together to try and throw down her brother. And, like, I don't know whether it's put the princess on the throne or whether there are other goals in addition to that, but I love the way that people talk about the series, and I've been wanting to read the Jasmine Throne for quite some time, so I have decided that it is near the top of my list for 2023. Now, next up, and these 2 series, The Burning Kingdoms and the Daevabad Trilogy, I don't think that they're similar. I think that the Burning Kingdoms trilogy is like Indian inspired, and that the Daevabad trilogy is like Egyptian inspired. But for some reason they're very intertwined in my head, and maybe it's because it's similar people that I've heard talk about loving them. Like, I associate these books with similar, like, booktubers and friends. But I feel like for some reason the Burning Kingdoms and the Daevabad trilogy are now like they're a pair. And the Daevabad trilogy is the next series on this list. And so, like I said, this is like Egyptian inspired because it takes place in 18th century Cairo, and we follow like a con woman. And I love that setup. I always have. That's a buzzword for me. Like, talk about like Mask of Mirrors, Lies of Locke Lamora, even Mistborn, although she's not so much like a con woman as they are kind of just generally like thieves and or like a band of, I don't know, criminals. It sounds like so harsh of a word, but it's a setup that I've generally loved. And so from what I understand, our main character somehow manages to summon a djinn and finds out that there is this legendary city of Daevabad, and I have a feeling they're probably going to go on some sort of quest to find it, or maybe that's an overall goal of the series, but our character is somehow entwined to this legendary city, and I think that the premise sounds really cool. I think that the setting would be really cool, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. And then finally, the last series on this list, the 5th and final, is the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. And I'll be honest with you, I just looked this up 2 minutes ago on Goodreads because this is another one where I was like, honestly, I'm not even going to pretend that I know what it's about. I just want to read more Ken Liu, and I also want to read it just based on the raving that everyone does about it. But just from the blurb of the first book, The Grace of Kings, It just sounds very true to like the themes that he liked to explore in the Paper Menagerie, and I thought that he did those so well. So essentially it seems as though we have two characters who are working together for like overthrowing the empire, but eventually they end up on opposite sides in two separate factions of a war with different goals and different ideas about how to like achieve their ambitions. And so I just feel like that is something that Ken Liu will be able to do so phenomenally that now I'm even more excited about it. Like, even though I already was and it was high priority, now I'm like, okay, yeah, I didn't even know what this is about. I don't know why I never looked at it, but yeah, very much looking forward to it. So these are pretty much 6 series, like if you include A Song of Ice and Fire, that I know for sure I am going to like focus on in 2023. And I think that it's a great like representation of different types of fantasy, different maybe levels of like epicness, with Malazan being top of the pile, because I can't imagine, I mean, I know I haven't read it, but I can't imagine something more sprawling and epic. And some of them seem like they have smaller scopes, but with the different cultural influences and inspirations, I feel like this is gonna be really, really exciting, and I'm just hopeful that I love all of them. So I think I did a good job of keeping this brief, or at least the list brief, if not my way of talking about it. And let me know what you think of this list in the comments down below, whether you think I'm right about these being series that I'm gonna love or not. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. So that is it for this one. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. I post new videos on most Mondays and Thursdays. As always, I will have my Discord, socials, and Patreon linked in the description below if you're interested in any of that stuff. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!